The reason that we needed financing is our business model was as follows. And in 2000, we only worked with enterprises. We subsequently launched a consumer application where people could order food on their own personal credit card. But the way that the enterprise application worked is an employee at a company would place an order, let's say on January 1st. We would invoice the company electronically on January 8th and expect payment for all of the orders between January 1st and January 7th. We'd expect payment by February 8th. Conversely, on the restaurant side, we would provide an invoice to the restaurant saying at the end of the month, here's how much was purchased through our platform from your restaurant in the month of January, but we're not going to pay you until March 5th. So there was a positive working capital mismatch in our favor in that we were collecting money from our customers first, and then we were paying our restaurant partners. When 9/11 happened, a lot of our customers stopped paying us in that timely manner, and so everything flipped on its head, and we needed emergency funds urgently, because if we didn't pay the restaurants, they would go out of business. And if we were late in paying them, then a lot of our value proposition to them would shrink. So we went back out and we tried to, we applied for emergency-based loans. Our offices were located above 14th Street, so we didn't qualify for any of those. No bank would lend us money because we were not profitable, though we believed that we would be, and no one really knew what the aftermath of the events of 9/11 was going to be as to whether or not that would dramatically change the trajectory of our business. So went back out and raised the $650,000. In the middle of closing on the financing and selling the business, we ultimately sold the business in 2006 to Aramark, and I'll tell you a little bit about that experience. But we internally built out an inside sales team, an outside direct sales team, both on the client enterprises selling to law firms, banks, hedge funds, what have you, as well as really ultimately any company in certain geographic territories. We operate in 22 cities in the U.S., or 21 cities in the U.S. and London, and we now have, or when I left the company, I'm jumping around a little bit, but when we sold actually in 2006, we had about 1,500 corporate customers and about 2,000 restaurant partners. And then when I left in February of 2010, just last month, we had about 4,500 corporate clients and about 5,500 restaurant partners and about 1 million people that were using the system. So that's sort of general background. One thing I want to highlight that I mentioned earlier is in 2005 we launched a consumer application. So from 2000 to 2005, the only thing we were doing is selling to businesses. And we sold to companies that were very large, that had an on-site dining facility, that were running it at times that were unprofitably during certain times of the day. So maybe you can run the on-site dining facility profitably for breakfast and lunch, but not for dinner. They would introduce us, and so almost all the largest investment banks and a lot of Fortune 500 companies located in New York City utilized us for that purpose. And then for weekends and weekends when their on-site dining facility was closed, or in buildings where they didn't have an on-site dining facility, they would use our platform. And then for small and medium-sized businesses, we essentially became their outsourced cafeteria. So they could order catering for meetings, they could order individual meals. We had an application that was what we call an individual meal order. We also had an application which is sort of what it sounds like. I'm ordering on my own, or maybe with one or two friends. We also had what we call a group order, which is an aggregated ordering system, which was really designed largely for trading floors, where you have a lot of people that want to order and they want to have one delivery or two deliveries to have a controlled environment to make sure that it's more secure. And so the way that would work is an email would go out in the morning, and it would invite the invited people to place an order between when they receive that email and the designated what we call the close time. And at the close time, all the orders would get aggregated and then batched to the provider together as one single order, or, as a couple of different orders. And then the provider would then make the food available for pickup or for delivery. Then we had a catering application. But in 2000, so that was really from 2000 to 2005, we had those. And then at the end of 2005, we launched a consumer application. And the consumer application essentially offered the public in any covered territory, so in the cities where we actually had a restaurant network, anyone who had a personal credit card could then log on to the system and utilize all the bells and whistles that we were offering only to enterprises, with the exception of the invoicing component. So now, as an individual consumer, I could log on, I could see which restaurants were open and when they were open, which ones were delivering to me, which ones are available for takeout. I can save my favorites, I can view my order history, I can see what the most popular dishes are within our system. So, which I know I like this restaurant, or I've read the reviews of this restaurant, but what's good on that particular restaurant's menu? The individual consumers were able to benefit from all those bells and whistles. 2006, we sold the business to Aramark. I stayed there for 4 years running the business, and then I just left in February 12th. And actually, last week I joined, or a couple weeks ago, I joined Bessemer Venture Partners as what's called an entrepreneur in residence, and I'm happy to talk to you about that. So, in any event, that was my background, and I hope I hit the time. And now, love to hear any questions that you all may have, or just talk.